Okay, let's unpack this. We've received a truly fascinating stack of sources. It's essentially a full masterclass on how to talk about the weather in English.
It really is. And it's one of those topics that feels simple on the surface, but the depth is just incredible.
Right. And, if you've ever wondered why that particular topic seems to dominate so many conversations, especially somewhere like the UK, the source material gives us a great clue.
It's the seasons.
It's the four distinct seasons. They provide this endless, completely unpredictable variety. You never run out of things to say about it.
That's absolutely right. When you actually experience a true meteorological cycle, from the bitter, icy grip of winter to the scorching, almost oppressive heat of summer and all those weird transitions in between.
Yeah, the transitions are the wildest part.
They are. And for that, you don't just need a few basic words. You need an entire arsenal of specialized vocabulary to really accurately describe what's happening outside your window.
Simple adjectives just aren't going to cut it.
Not at all.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to take you, the learner, way beyond a simple "it is hot" or "it is cold." We are really aiming for linguistic precision here. We're going to guide you through the fundamental grammatical structures that kind of hold the conversation together, and then we're going to arm you with the full expressive toolkit.
The specialized adjectives, the dynamic verbs, the very precise nouns.
And my favorite part, those crucial idiomatic expressions that locals actually use. We've organized it all by the distinct feel of winter, spring, summer, and autumn, so you have a real framework.
And this isn't just about small talk. The ability to discuss the weather is a real key to integrating into many English-speaking cultures.
Sure.
We're going from the basic mechanics straight into the highly nuanced language, the kind used by meteorologists and locals alike.
But you're right, before we can start calling the weather blustery or sweltering, we have to know how to actually build the sentence.
You need the foundation first.
So let's start right there, at the foundation, the grammar of the forecast. When you look at how English speakers talk about the weather, it's interesting we rely so heavily on these impersonal structures.
Right, because the weather isn't a person. It's not a tangible subject you can point to. But it still needs a placeholder in the sentence for the grammar to work.
That impersonal structure is everything. Let's start with adjectives. How do we describe what the weather is?
So we found three core ways that speakers deploy descriptive adjectives. The first one is, as you said earlier, a bit formal, but it's crystal clear. You just name the subject directly.
The weather is adjective.
Exactly. The weather is warm. It's academically perfect. It's easy to understand, but can sound a little stiff in a casual chat.
Yeah, a bit robotic, maybe. Which brings us to the structure you hear constantly, the real core of English weather discussion, the it structure.
This is the one. This is what you'll hear 99% of the time. It is adjective.
So, it is warm. Or more likely, it's warm.
It's warm. And the source material offers this really critical insight here about that tiny little placeholder, that word it.
Tell me.
Well, when you say it is warm, everyone, without a second's thought, understands you are referencing the climate, the temperature outside. The context is built in.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you were to just shift the context slightly and say it is good, that impersonal it completely fails.
Right, because the listener immediately thinks, wait, what's good? My coffee, your mood, the movie we just watched.
Exactly. The context is gone. The it has no anchor. So the adjective has to be inherently weather-related, describing temperature, precipitation, visibility, for that it structure to work on its own.
That's fascinating. It's like a linguistic shortcut. If the adjective is warm, sunny, freezing, or gloomy, then it is works perfectly as your conversational launchpad.
It's an accepted contraction of meaning. It's incredibly efficient. And that brings us to the third structure, which sort of integrates the time frame directly. It gives the statement a bit more substance.
This one is huge for small talk. It's a adjective day.
Yes, it's a warm day. This is probably the most common way to open up a conversation about the weather because it sets the scene for the whole day and it just invites commentary from the other person.
So we have the formal, the weather is, the informal, it is, and then the descriptive, it's a day. That really covers the state of the weather. But what happens when the weather is actually doing something?
Right. Now we're moving from describing a static quality to describing an action, a weather event. We're talking about dynamic verbs, things like to rain, to snow, or to hail.
And for this, you have to use the continuous tense, right, for immediacy, if you want to talk about something happening right now.
You do. The structure, again, relies on that impersonal it is, but this time it's followed by the verb in its continuous form. So it is verb plus ing.
You look out the window, you see water falling from the sky, you say, it is raining, or it's raining.
It's an immediate, real-time report on what's happening. But when you shift to the past tense, describing an event that's already finished, the structure changes to the simple past.
So for yesterday's weather.
You'd say, yesterday, it, verb plus EED. For a regular verb like rain, that becomes, yesterday, it rained. Of course, you always have to be mindful of irregular verbs in English, but for most weather actions, that standard past tense works.
Okay, so that's present and past. Looking ahead to the future, the sources mention two primary ways to talk about it, and this is where the nuance really kicks in.
It does. They carry slightly different connotations, mostly about certainty or the evidence you have for your prediction. The first, and most general, uses the auxiliary verb will.
It will verb tomorrow.
It will snow tomorrow.
Yeah.
This suggests a general forecast, maybe a prediction, but it's not necessarily based on something you can see right now.
It's just what the forecast says is likely to happen.
Exactly. But the second form, using going to, is often a bit stronger. It can imply that your prediction is based on present evidence or just a higher degree of certainty.
So you're suggesting you have some concrete reason to believe this will happen.
You might, for example, you might say, it's going to rain later, perhaps because you've just seen those heavy dark clouds rolling in, or you just checked a really reliable weather app on your phone.
That distinction is so important for you as a learner. If I look out my window and I see blue skies, I might say, I hope it will be sunny tomorrow. It's a wish, a general prediction.
But if you see those big storm clouds gathering on the horizon,
I'm saying, oh, it is definitely going to rain. The certainty just shifts completely.
it does. Both forms, will and going to, are essential tools for talking about forecasts, but going to often implies just a little more commitment to the prediction.
Okay, so that's verbs. What about nouns?
Finally, yes, the nouns.
Yeah.
The actual named events like a storm, a flash flood, or hail.
Yeah.
You can't really use the simple it is structure here because a storm is an entity. It's not a quality of the atmosphere.
So you can't say it is storm.
No, that doesn't work. Instead, we use what the source calls the there is rule, which is foundational for talking about the presence or existence of something.
Right, so the structure uses there is, there was, or there will be to show the present, past, or future existence of that specific weather noun.
And the power of this structure is its clarity. It's so flexible across the tenses. For the present, right now, there is a storm.
For the past, there was a massive storm yesterday.
And for the future, the forecast says there will be a storm tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
It's just a very clean, structured way to frame the conversation around a specific named weather event.
So if we step back, we've got the three fundamental building blocks. We have the it is for description, the it is plus ing for an ongoing action, and the there is for named events.
That's the architecture.
Exactly. With that grammatical architecture sorted, we can now start loading those structures up with the incredible, often dramatic vocabulary that English uses, starting with the harshest and, I think, most evocative season, winter.
Winter is defined by two things, really. Low temperatures and the solid state of water. And the sheer volume of adjectives English has just to describe the single concept of cold. It really speaks to the cultural necessity of discussing it.
We have to move way past the basic, pretty inadequate term cold.
We do. So let's build a scale of misery, because that's really what winter adjectives are measuring.
I like that. A scale of misery. Okay, where do we start?
We start with chilly. Chilly suggests a slight coldness, something that might require a light jacket or a sweater, but it's often used in a slightly positive context.
Like a chilly but sunny morning. It's not painful yet. It's just brisk.
Brisk, exactly. But moving up that scale, we hit bitter. The source defines bitter as a definitive step further than just cold. It implies a sharper, more aggressive kind of chill that feels like it's cutting through your clothes.
Yeah, you can feel the wind on your face when someone says bitter. And crucially, we can compound that, right? We can combine them for intensity.
We can. It's bitterly cold. That instantly creates a far more vivid, much more painful image than just cold. It suggests a deep, penetrating chill that gets into your bones.
If you're bitterly cold, you're probably indoors, standing by a radiator, wishing you were anywhere else.
100%. Now, if the cold is maybe a bit worrying, but has a sense of eerie quiet to it, we might use chilling. while chilling is often used for emotional fear, like a chilling story.
Right, a horror movie.
Exactly. When you apply it to the weather, it speaks to a deep, pervasive cold that makes you feel uneasy.
Okay, so that's the feeling. Then we have the terms that are tied specifically to ice and below zero
The
conditions.
most straightforward one is freezing. If you say it's freezing outside, you're not just exaggerating. You are communicating that the temperature is at or below the point where water turns to ice, so 0 degrees Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit.
This is not hyperbole. This is potentially dangerous cold.
It is. And closely related to that is frosty. Frosty describes a day where frost, those small crystalline ice formations, is actually present. You can see it on the grass, on the cars. A frosty morning is usually clear but intensely cold.
I love a frosty morning. It's beautiful.
It is, but it's cold. Now, when winter gets truly aggressive, we need descriptors that really encapsulate the miserable experience of it all.
The top of the misery scale.
The top. The weather can be classified as severe, which indicates conditions that are genuinely difficult, maybe even hazardous to be out in. Or it can be wintry.
What's the specific meaning of wintry?
It's an adjective that's used to convey the specific feel and appearance of deep winter. Think heavy skies, low temperatures, and the constant threat of snow. It just feels like winter.
And if those heavy skies are consistently gray and just bringing down the mood, we introduce gloomy.
Exactly. This adjective is less about the temperature and more about the light and the visibility. A gloomy day is defined by gray skies and a real lack of solar energy. It can make you feel gloomy.
And you often pair gloomy with bleak.
Yes. Bleak implies a sense of barrenness, of emptiness, a lack of warmth or comfort in the landscape itself. A bleak landscape is empty and exposed to the elements.
And if the whole season just feels relentlessly difficult, aggressive, miserable,
Then we use the word harsh, as in we're having a harsh winter this year. The language really moves so quickly from a measurable temperature like cold to a description of the emotional impact, like gloomy, bleak, and harsh.
that's the precision we're talking about. You don't just feel cold, you feel the bitter wind on a gloomy, bleak day. It's a whole different level of description.
It is. So that covers the adjectives. Now let's shift to the specific forms of frozen precipitation, the verbs and nouns.
Because it's not just about snowing. English has these incredibly precise terms for different ice mixtures, and they often denote different levels of misery.
Let's start with the classic, the one everyone likes, to snow. This is the white, fluffy, usually welcome stuff falling from the sky. It's light, often beautiful.
But then we move to the stuff nobody likes, to sleet.
Ugh, sleet. The source clarifies that sleet is partly frozen rain. It's like a very wet snow or a very cold, almost frozen rain. Crucially, it's always described as unpleasant because it's wet, it's cold, and it's heavy.
Yeah, if it's sleeting, you're getting wet and cold at the same time, and you definitely want to be indoors. It's the worst of both worlds.
It really is. And then there is to hail. Now, hail is completely frozen rain, falling as hailstones, tiny balls of hard ice.
And the size can vary wildly, right?
It can. While they're often small and harmless, like little pellets, the source reminds us they can sometimes be quite large, like golf balls, posing a real risk to cars and crops. The verb is simply to hail.
So it's important for you, as the listener, to distinguish sleet, which is that mushy, wet mix, from hail, which is hard little balls of ice.
Very different phenomena. We also have the specific actions of ice formation related to water. We use to freeze, generally, but
Yeah.
more descriptive term for bodies of water or surfaces is to freeze over.
What does the over add?
It specifically means that a surface, like a lake, a pond, or even a road, is now covered with a layer of solid ice. The transformation is complete.
The example from the source is great. My pond has frozen over.
Right. That conveys that the surface water is now a solid layer of ice. It's a very specific action verb that implies a complete change of state due to the intense cold.
Okay, so when we're looking at the nouns, we've covered the basics. Sleet, hail, snow, frost. But the king of all winter storms, the one that combines all that miserable cold and action, is the blizzard.
Yes. And the key defining feature of a blizzard, according to the source, is not just heavy snow. That's a common mistake.
It's the wind.
It is specifically a windy snowstorm. That strong wind component is crucial. It causes low visibility, what they call a whiteout, and it creates snowdrifts. That's what differentiates it from just a regular, calm, heavy snowfall.
So it's important for the learner not to fall into that trap of calling any heavy snow a blizzard.
Definitely not. If the snow is falling straight down in a dense, quiet blanket, that's just heavy snow.
Hmm.
If that dense blanket is being whipped sideways by intense, howling winds so you can't see anything.
That's when you have a blizzard. And that wind element is what makes it so hazardous.
Exactly. Now for the fun part, the idioms. The color and context we use when talking about the experience of winter.
Okay, what's first?
First, we have a cold snap. This doesn't refer to the whole winter, but rather a short, sudden period of cold weather.
So you might say, we had a lovely mild December, but now we're in the middle of a real cold snap.
Precisely. It suggests a suddenness, a temporary shock to the system, and hopefully some brevity.
And finally, those wonderfully dramatic, often hyperbolic phrases we use when we are truly, truly suffering from the cold.
Frozen to death or frozen to the bone.
Neither is meant to be taken literally, of course.
No, but both of them vividly communicate that you are profoundly chilled, freezing through all your layers of clothes, and just utterly miserable because of the intense cold.
You hear this all the time. Someone walks inside from the cold, shivering, and says, "Oh, I'm frozen to the bone." It's just a way of expressing the extremity of that physical sensation.
It is. And those winter terms, bitter, bleak, blizzard, frozen to the bone, they set a really high bar for descriptive language and emotional content. But now, we get to transition. We move into spring.
A season defined not by extremes of temperature, but by transition, mildness, and critically, a hugely diverse vocabulary for rain.
Spring is known for its volatility, isn't it? Sunny one moment, pouring rain the next.
Completely. And because it's the season where everything starts to grow, the adjectives here tend to focus more on pleasantness and vitality rather than the aggressive chill of winter.
The temperatures are often described using either cool or mild, and the distinction here is pretty important.
So cool might still imply a bit of a nip in the air.
Yes, you might still need a jacket if it's cool,
Right.
but mild specifically means the temperature is not cold, not hot, and certainly not unpleasant. It's just comfortable.
We also often use fresh. I like that word. It implies a clean, invigorated atmosphere, especially right after a sprung rain clears the air of all the winter dust.
And if the sun is out, the day is simply bright. But we do have to deal with wind in the spring, and here we introduce a much softer term, breezy.
Right, a breeze is very different from a harsh winter wind. A breeze is usually a light, gentle wind that's normally pleasant, even welcomed.
Exactly. It's not the howling wind of winter.
Mm.
Now let's talk about cloud cover, because there's some real nuance here. We have to distinguish between the simple, everyday word cloudy and the slightly more advanced, professional term overcast.
Okay, what's the difference?
Cloudy is general. It just means there are clouds in the sky.
Oh.
Overcast, however, means the sky is substantially, maybe even totally covered with clouds. It creates this uniform gray ceiling that prevents a completely sunny day.
So it's a term about the degree of coverage.
It is. It's the term meteorologists use because it's specific. It tells you about the density of the clouds, which is key for predicting sunlight and temperature. While an overcast sky might look gloomy, the word overcast is strictly technical.
And then there's the return of humidity, which brings us to the word muggy.
Muggy.
Yeah.
Muggy refers to high humidity in the air. And while it's famously associated with a muggy summer's day, the source rightly points out that it can apply to cooler days too. It just signifies that damp, heavy feeling in the atmosphere.
So in a temperate spring climate, muggy might just mean the air feels a bit heavy and damp.
Right, maybe your clothes feel a little sticky. But in a tropical climate, muggy immediately means intensely sweaty and oppressive conditions. The core meaning is high moisture, but the experience of it changes a lot with the temperature.
And of course, with all that spring rain, the simple adjective wet covers the ground conditions. It's a wet day.
And that brings us to the vocabulary for rain itself, which in spring is all about the subtle differences in intensity and duration. We have multiple verbs just to describe falling water.
We should start at the gentle end of the spectrum, to drizzle.
Drizzling means there is a constant but very gentle flow of rain. It's fine, misty rain. It's annoying, you probably need an umbrella, but it's not a downpour.
You can often walk through it for a bit without getting immediately soaked.
You can. Next up is to shower. This implies rain that's more sporadic. It's usually heavier than drizzle, but it's shorter in duration.
This is why meteorologists predict showers throughout the day.
Exactly. It means you'll have these occasional patches of rain, but they'll be interrupted by periods of dry or even sunny weather. It's a stop-start kind of precipitation.
And at the heavy end, the intense end, we have to pour.
When it is pouring, the rain is falling really, really heavily. It's an urgent, immediate downpour,
Right.
and you absolutely need to find shelter. There's no walking through it.
Okay, so that's the verbs. Drizzle, shower, pour. What about the nouns for rain?
Well, we have the general, uncountable word rain. Then we have countable forms that relate to intensity. A shower is a short, light patch of rain.
And a downpour is a really heavy, sudden patch of rain.
A downpour is typically unexpected and overwhelming. You go from dry to soaked in about 30 seconds. And finally, the most severe outcome of all that rain, a flood.
This is the point where the ground is completely saturated, the drainage systems can't cope.
And the earth just can't absorb any more water. It leads to pooling, rising water levels, and it can cause serious disruption. A flood is the consequence of continuous heavy rain over a period of time.
It makes sense that some of the most vivid and colorful idioms in English relate to heavy rain.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially in British English. We have several slang phrases for a really heavy, sudden downpour. First up, to chuck it down.
If you hear someone say, "It's really chucking it down out there," you know it's not a drizzle. It's serious, heavy, continuous rain.
Similarly, we have to bucket down. The image here is that the rain is falling as if someone were up in the sky just emptying buckets of water on your head.
It communicates intense volume and speed. If it's bucketing down, it's raining really, really hard. Both chucking it down and bucketing down are incredibly common in everyday British English.
They are. And then there is the classic idiom every single language learner knows.
It's raining cats and dogs.
Ah, yes. And this is where the source material provides a crucial practical piece of insight for you, the learner.
Which is?
While it's raking cats and dogs is a very well-known, well-taught idiom. In reality, people don't actually use it that much in everyday conversation.
That is a brilliant piece of knowledge. It can risk sounding a bit dated or maybe like you learned it from a very old textbook.
It can. I suspect it's a linguistic fossil. It's been around for centuries,
Yeah.
and it's wonderfully bizarre, which makes it memorable for teaching. But in real life, it has largely been replaced by those more immediate, visceral slang terms we just mentioned.
Chucking it down or bucketing down.
Using those will make you sound far more natural and engaged in a modern conversation.
So ditch the pets and stick to the buckets. Got it. Finally, we have the ultimate personal impact idiom for rain.
Soak through. If the rain has completely penetrated your jacket, your clothes, your hair, you say, oh my God, I'm soaked through.
You're not just wet, you are thoroughly, miserably saturated from head to toe.
Exactly. So from the mildness of a cool breeze to the violence of a downpour, spring really covers that whole transition spectrum. But now we shift gears completely. It's time for high temperatures, dryness, and the radiant light of summer.
Ah, summer. This is when the vocabulary shifts entirely away from moisture. Unless, of course, we're talking about that oppressive, muggy heat, and it focuses overwhelmingly on intense heat, light, and our physical reaction to it.
And once again, we need to map that scale of temperature adjectives. We start with the basic, perfectly adequate word, hot. But the escalation is swift and dramatic as soon as that heat becomes uncomfortable.
Moving up the intensity ladder, we hit scorching.
Scorching implies a burning heat. It's often associated with the sun itself, a scorching sun, and it suggests danger and real intensity.
Next up is sweltering. Sweltering heat often carries that implication of high humidity, doesn't it? It makes the air feel heavy and oppressive.
It does. You swelter when the temperature's high, but the lack of air movement makes it feel suffocating. It's a very physical, uncomfortable feeling, and at the very top of the scale is often boiling.
Which is hyperbole.
Total hyperbole. You say it's boiling outside, and you're comparing the air temperature to boiling water, but it clearly communicates intense discomfort and an immediate urgent need to cool down.
For the general atmospheric conditions, we have sunny, we have clear, meaning no clouds. And if the air is devoid of rain and has low humidity, the day is simply dry.
Or perhaps arid, if that dryness is severe and long-lasting like in a desert. We also have to talk about the sun's direct impact. The adjective blistering is often used to describe the sun itself.
As in a blistering sun.
Right. And this suggests the sun is so hot it could literally cause blisters on unprotected skin. It links the meteorological description directly to a very painful physical consequence.
And when those temperatures stay high for several days in a row, we call that a heat wave.
Yes, a heat wave isn't just one hot day. It's a sustained period of intense heat, and it often requires public health warnings.
So what about the verbs? What is the sun doing in summer?
The verbs are centered around the action and impact of the sun. The primary one is simply to shine. The sun is shining brightly. But when the heat gets extreme, we introduce the idea of impact, even pain.
The sun is burning.
We use that if it's especially hot and strong. It's often a warning to protect your skin. And mirroring that adjective scorching, we use the verb to scorch to describe the sun's action on the land or on skin.
And when we talk about nouns in summer, it's mostly about the positives, right? Sunshine, which everyone loves, and heat, which is simply the name state of the high temperature.
It's interesting, isn't it? In winter, we have so many specific words for different kinds of frozen precipitation. But in summer, the vocabulary focuses almost entirely on the sensation of heat and light shining, burning, scorching, because the effect of the sun is what really dominates the entire experience.
That makes perfect sense. And the idioms for summer reflect that. They relate directly to our physical activities, our desire to be outdoors, and our universal reaction to high heat.
Which is sweating.
A lot of sweating. So let's start with sunbathing. If you are deliberately sitting outside to absorb the light, hoping to get a tan, what do you say?
You might say, I'm going to catch some rays. It's a very casual, active way of saying you are sunbathing.
And directly related to the results of that, we have the very simple phrase, to go brown.
Right, which is a clear reference to the process of tanning or darkening the skin from the sun.
Ah,
And a slightly more relaxed version of sunbathing is to soak up the sun.
that sounds less active.
It implies relaxing, maybe lying back, and just absorbing the sunshine, perhaps with less intensity than catching rays. They all paint a picture of enjoying the sun's warm, hopefully beneficial presence.
We also have terms for when it gets to be too much. You might talk about sheltering from the sun, which means actively finding shade, or complaining that you are baking under the sun.
Baking is a great one, a hypervisual way of saying you are just too hot. And finally, the specific idiom for that universal summer reaction to high heat, heavy sweating.
To sweat like a pig.
It's an extremely common, very vivid, and maybe slightly crude way to communicate that you are sweating profusely. If you are sweltering, you are probably sweating like a pig.
So from the blistering heat of summer, we now transition into our final season. The time of cooling temperatures, strong, unpredictable winds, and that distinctive low-level atmospheric moisture, autumn.
Autumn is characterized by the changing leaves, the cooling transition back toward winter, and an increase in wind activity and specific moisture forms. And this season also introduces a key linguistic difference between British and American English that you, the learner, should definitely be aware of.
Yes, the name distinction. British English overwhelmingly uses the word autumn.
While American English primarily uses fall, which of course refers to the leaves falling from the trees.
The source confirms that while autumn is standard in Britain, fall is understood globally, largely due to its prevalence in U.S. media and entertainment. For precision, though, we'll stick primarily to the autumnal language.
And that brings us to the single best descriptive adjective, one that really encapsulates the entire mood of the season.
Autumnal.
Autumnal. You use it to describe a day that embodies all the characteristics of the season. The cool air, the low light, the falling leaves. You say, it's a very autumnal day. It's a term that conveys a very specific aesthetic and feeling.
Autumn also tends to be significantly windier than the seasons before it. So we move past the pleasant breezy of spring and introduce the straightforward windy and the more descriptive term blustery.
A blustery day is generally characterized by strong, gusty, unpredictable wind. The word itself suggests a degree of chaos, where the wind comes in these sudden, powerful bursts.
If you have to fight to keep your umbrella from turning inside out, it's probably blustery, not just windy.
That's a perfect description. And then we see the return of cold moisture in the air, manifesting as misty or foggy. The source specifies that this cold moisture usually occurs in the mornings, especially in valleys or near bodies of water.
And the distinction between mist and fog is a great example of that need for precision we keep talking about.
It is. They are both cold moisture suspended in the air, but typically fog is significantly denser than mist. Fog reduces visibility severely, often making driving hazardous.
If visibility is less than about 1,000 meters, it's officially classified as fog.
Right. Mist, on the other hand, is lighter, more localized, and usually dissipates much more quickly as the sun rises and warms the air.
You also sometimes hear the term haze. What's the difference there?
While haze can relate to pollution in a natural setting, it often refers to moisture or dust particles that reduce the clarity of distant objects, but not the outright visibility in the way a thick fog would. It adds a sort of soft, blurred quality to the atmosphere.
Got it. Now, since autumn is so often dominated by strong winds, we need specific verbs, not just for the wind's movement, but for its sound and intensity.
We have the basic action, to blow. The wind is blowing hard today. But for powerful, aggressive wind, we use the verb to howl.
If the wind is very strong and making that loud, sustained, almost mournful noise through the trees or around the corners of buildings, you say, it's howling with wind.
It brings a very dramatic, almost menacing quality to the description. Now let's look at the escalating nouns for wind strength, moving beyond just wind or breeze.
We start with a gale.
A gale is defined as a strong wind. It's often associated with rough seas in coastal areas. It's actually a professional term from the Beaufort scale, indicating wind speeds that are officially strong, but not yet at destructive hurricane force.
And then the scale intensifies drastically, moving into the realm of major storms. We have a hurricane.
A hurricane is a very, very strong wind, but it's more than that. It's a large, rotating storm system that typically originates over warm ocean waters. These are massive, dangerous, and can last for days.
And finally, the specialized wind noun, a tornado.
This describes wind that goes around in a vortex. It's characterized by its rapidly rotating column of air. It's usually much more localized than a hurricane, but can be intensely destructive in its path.
So the difference is structure. A gale is a speed, a hurricane is a massive system, and a tornado is a concentrated, swirling funnel.
Exactly. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, the nouns for the cold moisture in the air are simply mist and fog. They create that classic atmospheric beginning to an autumn day, often setting the scene for a cooler, blustery afternoon.
And with that, we've successfully navigated the grammatical rules and moved through the entire cycle of the four seasons.
We've collected specialized vocabulary for cold, wet, hot, and windy conditions, ensuring that you, the learner, now have the precision needed for any weather conversation that comes your way.
What an incredible linguistic journey that was. We started with the foundation, the simple elegance of the impersonal it is and the existence-based there is. And we just built on that, moving through this very specific, very emotive vocabulary.
Vocabulary used to describe everything from a chilly morning to a sweltering afternoon.
And the seasonal organization is such a potent tool for memory, isn't it? It lets you mentally file away adjectives like harsh and bleak under winter, or terms like blustery and fog under autumn.
It does. You now possess the toolkit to talk about the weather, not just correctly, but with significant precision and, I think, a lot more conversational fluency.
What's truly remarkable to me as we look back across all the source material is the sheer variety of terms English uses to describe a single concept.
Yeah.
And not just any concept, but rain.
Oh, yeah. Think about the spectrum we just analyzed. We had simple rain, and then the increasing intensity captured by drizzle, shower, pour, downpour, and then the idioms to chuck it down, to buck it down. That incredible vocabulary shows that communicating about the weather isn't just necessary for survival or for small talk. It allows for an extreme precision in describing the natural world around us.
You don't just say, it's hot anymore. You can now specify if it's scorching, sweltering, or boiling. And that level of detail completely changes the emotional and the practical content of the whole conversation.
It allows you to share the exact experience of the atmosphere with another person.
So here is your final challenge, the learner. Now that you are equipped with this comprehensive vocabulary, we want to encourage you to actively observe the weather wherever you are right now. Don't just settle for it's fine or it's cold.
Use the precise nouns, adjectives, and idioms you've learned today.
Ask yourself, is it just cloudy or is the sky truly overcast? Is the air just warm or does that heavy, wet feeling make it muggy? Is the wind merely blowing or is it howling?
Practice connecting that physical sensation you feel to the precise linguistic description for it.
Use this new descriptive capability to fully experience and communicate the world around you with the confidence of a seasoned meteorologist.
We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the art of weather talk.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for more essential knowledge.